All right. Dirty Sports, episode 788. Live on YouTube in 5, 4, 3. Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I am your host, Andy Ruther, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, with my co-host from Los Angeles, California, Joey No Chill Prano.
Hello, Andy.
Good morning, Joe.
Morning.
And also joining us live from Los Angeles, California, finally back on the show, the one and only Tug Coker.
Hello, Andy. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Tug. I feel
We're
like
good.
we
Are
have,
we live? Can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you.
Let's do it.
I feel like we have three distinct looks going on today. In all of our various. Andy still has his American Sniper going with his beard, this Carhartt colored Miller Lite sweatshirt. I feel like I look like with my lighting and my black sweater, I look like a high school drama teacher. And Tug looks like cartoon Batman, cartoon Bruce Wayne, who's like taking a break for the holidays. This high and tight haircut.
Got a cut yesterday. I was just tired of the flow. Needed a little change. Needed a little less worry in my life. I was too busy. I was still, using the hair dryer.
Did you have to blow dry your hair in the mornings?
I do. I've had to do that. I was talking to a lady yesterday. I was like, I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't want to blow dry my hair.
Wow.
For the moment.
Wait a second. I've had long hair at times. I've never blown dried my hair once. You blow dry your hair?
Yeah, but look at Tug's thickness. Look at the volume.
My
there.
hair, in all frankness, my hair's on a different level than the hair that you're talking about.
I'm not denying that, but for 25 years,
what else are you supposed to do? I work in a business where appearance matters.
It's funny you say that, Tug, because my good buddy, he's from Northern California. He's visiting me this weekend, and he wanted to fly in for the Niners game. And I just said, you talk about appearance. I just said to him, I go, look at me, dude. I'm in a Miller Lite hoodie in my pajama pants from last night, and I'm getting paid to do a podcast in pajama pants. I can't complain.
No, you can. I mean, listen, Andre Agassi famously said, image is everything. And that's what we have to do out here. I mean, once you move to Cincinnati, you can officially retire from life, and you've done it. So congratulations.
You can stop caring altogether. You want a bowl of chili spaghetti? Yeah, I no longer care. I do.
I did take my buddy to. We did a post Bengals game, Skyline Chili last night. He said we just got to get it out of the way because he's like, you got to do it. And he's actually good friends with Ian Eagle. And he's been texting him all weekend. And I was just like, don't do it. Don't do it. And it was funny seeing the reaction between those two. I was looking at the text of just, I was like, don't go there. But we did.
What was his review?
He was very polite to the staff. My buddy Chuck was. Because they came up
a non-answer about the food.
Yeah.
Very polite.
Yeah. He liked the Coney better than he's like, dude, this is fine. The Coney, the hot dog, the cheese, the chili, but he was not a fan, a la Joe Prano, of the spaghetti with the chili. But word had spread quickly at that Skyline location that it was his first time. Like the manager came over and she's like, what do you think? But I think they know they get different reactions because she said, what do you think? Do you like it? Do you hate it? And he's like, it's fine. He's being nice. It's fine. And he's like, I don't like this.
Get me out of here.
Skyline is like, if you have someone coming in town to Cincinnati for the weekend, what are the three places you got to hit in Cincinnati? It's Skyline. Maybe it's like the stadiums. Is there something else that you got to hit?
Well, they would say Montgomery Inn, which we might go to. The rib place with the boathouse. That's Eddie's spot, Joe. Eddie is. Yeah. They would say Montgomery Inn. And then if you wanted ice cream, everybody talks about Graders. But yeah, if you're going to go, obviously, well, we were lucky. We went to the Xavier Cincinnati crosstown shootout, which he said, he's like the atmosphere, like this is a college. It's a very college friendly town. With those schools are only 4 miles apart, and going to that game, like a sold out crosstown rivalry, that's what I would advise. But it's the Midwest, dude. There's not much to do. I mean, you go to the Bengals game, and we can jump into it if you want. I don't know if either of you watched it. I mean, the Bengals fans people of Cincinnati have finally hopped on the Andy Ruther train of fuck Mike Brown, the owner, because there was about 15 to 25,000 empties. There's 20,000 empty seats yesterday for the Niners game.
It was a huge game for them. They needed that one.
If they win that game, they were in first place since Baltimore lost.
And now they lost, and they're what, in third?
AFC North is a meltdown, man.
Yeah. So they're not in the playoffs right now. Like the Bengals coach he's been getting killed all day, deservingly so. In overtime, they have 2 passes for 56 yards. They get it down right inside 25 to start overtime. Like let Burrow rip it, right?
Yeah.
He does back-to-back runs to Mixon up the middle and then gets sacked on third down. And they settle for a field goal. And then San Francisco drives the other way. I mean, it's like, I'd love your opinion on this, Tug. The Bengals offensively, for the talent that they have, they're just not I would argue who outside of maybe the Bucks, your Cowboys might be up there. Who has a better trio of
Cowboys are definitely up there, by the way.
Yeah. But who has a better trio of Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase? As far as I would put the Bengals upper echelon again with maybe the Cowboys, Bucks. Who else has a better trio?
And Mixon's a nice piece, and Mixon's been very good this year. He scored in 7 games in a row at one point. I mean, I don't know if he scored yesterday, but he was a bunch of touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying.
The main issue is you can't give Jimmy G a chance. You can't give Jimmy G a chance to score in overtime. So that's why you have to go for the touchdown. I mean, Jimmy G, he smells the blood in the water. Field goal, he laughs at field goals in overtime. So
I sense the sarcasm.
Well, good. It's thick.
I was like, wait, did Tug get Jimmy G's haircut and is a low-key Jimmy G stand this whole time?
Well, he is on my fantasy team in the 2-quarterback league, and I needed him to play well, so I did appreciate that. But he
went into the salon with a picture of Jimmy Garoppolo.
One could wish to look like Jimmy G.
He's a good-looking dude.
Very good-looking. But both teams needed that game. It's really sort of a remember the NFL expanded to 7 teams in the playoff? This is not the year to be excited about that expansion because the 7th team is, I mean, the AFC is I don't know what's going on in the AFC. The NFC is pretty top heavy. The Niners are now in 7th place with the Washington football team still in the mix. That's a disaster. But to answer your question, I've said this from day one, the Bengals the coaching staff is just, you're right. I don't really kind of understand you. If you look at some of the stats guys, I don't have my Tug Nugs in front of me, but they've kind of done the opposite things that they need to do to be successful. They've leaned on Mixon when they should be spreading the ball more. Now Jamar Chase has rebounded from those early preseason drops, but he has started to drop the ball more recently in the past couple of weeks. So probably there's some plays that could have been successful that have not borne fruit. But yeah, these are games that, like you said, I mean, the Bengals are going to Bengals because this. What do you expect when you're a fan of the Bengals? A game that you need to have and you don't get it, it's pretty much on par.
It's just so obvious at this point to me. And I hate this NFL coaching for the majority of teams. They get into these situations where it's if you drive the ball down the field quickly, the first thing on first down when you're in striking distance is take a shot. That you can always dial it back and then be okay, let's get a mix and run and see if we can make it third and a little shorter. But the idea that these teams do this, if you're every single fan of a team watches that happen and goes okay, don't put your foot on the brakes now and settle for a field goal, because even them coming back and kicking field goal, all you have to do to win this game is get a touchdown. I hate it. I hate seeing teams downshift. And I was watching that game in the bowels of SoFi after the Giants game ended there was a bunch of Bengals fans and then a guy who had bet a bunch on the Bengals were watching, and everybody's like, no, dude, you can't just go kick a field goal on that. Like, you have to score a touchdown. And it's just, that to me, that's poor play calling.
Beautiful bows in SoFi, by the way.
Beautiful.
Yep. Love the bows down there. Very nice. Answer this for me. Did Tom, just to flip the or do like a mirror scenario, because I didn't watch all. I actually turned off the Bills Bucks game, but did Brady get the ball first and score a touchdown, or what happened in that scenario?
I think we were all out at games, to be honest. I was at the Bengals game.
What we do learn is that a massive comeback, but Tom Brady does score the touchdown.
Yeah.
And so that, that's again just a difference we talk about. We've seen that Brady scored touchdowns in so many overtimes.
Sure.
Now I feel like I'm wondering if the coaching staff felt like the game was pretty low scoring in Cincinnati. Is a field goal enough to win it? I mean, you kind of get that hint because he runs 2 times in a row.
But you also, sorry to cut you off, but you also figure the Niners had just driven down. I don't know if you guys know, it was at the end of regulation to kick a game-winning field goal. Like, Jimmy G had just taken the ball. And again, I'm no Jimmy G fan either. I kept joking in our section. This has Jimmy G interception written all over it. But he had just taken the Niners down the field to kick the game-winning field goal. Now, Gold missed a 46-yarder, which is obviously a very makeable kick. So my point is, he had just driven down the field. And I was thinking when they started driving, I said, this game has tie written all over it, right? Because when the Niners were down there, it was under 2 minutes. So that game had tie written all over it. But look, man, end of the day, Zach Taylor, I've said this, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this. He's not an NFL head coach. He shouldn't be calling the plays. By the way, Bengals fans are so stupid. I have to share this exchange with the Bengals fan. So we're sitting in the club level. It's a good level. The right directly above us is the Niners radio. And right on the right of that are the 49ers defensive and offensive coordinators. So right in the glass, like that's right where we're at. It's my buddy's company seats and they're great seats, right? This Bengals fan keeps yelling out when they run the ball and they shouldn't. He'd look up and he'd go, "You suck, offensive coordinator." And first of all, he was looking at the 49ers offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. He kept saying, "You suck." I couldn't resist. Finally, I go, the offensive coordinator is Zach Taylor, the head coach. He runs the plays. And then he would turn around and go, "You also suck, Taylor." And I'm like, what is happening here? Like, this is this is like classic Bengals fan. He's so clueless. I'm like, Taylor's on the sideline. Dude, what are we doing here? Like there's nothing more irritating.
It's a problematic organization, from the fan base to the players, the coaching staff.
What accent was that, by the way? I didn't recognize that. Cincinnati.
Well, people will be
lilt.
Well,
wow,
I'm on Kentucky, so like right on the border. So a lot of people have this like thick accent, which is weird to me too.
Just a rough couple days for the Ohio Kentucky corridor. First devastation in Kentucky, and then the Bengals gonna Bengal.
Too soon.
I mean, the game didn't end 24 hours ago.
Smirk at the audacity.
Well, Tug, you mentioned, and I have to talk about it briefly. 5 teams now are 7-6 in the AFC. 5 teams.
Can you name those teams for us?
Yeah, let's pull this up. We have where are we?
Are the Bills one of them?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
they feel live.
They do. So the 5, 7, and 6 teams will go in order as far as who's in and out of the playoffs. Number 6, you have the Colts. 7 seed the Bills. 8 seed the Browns. 9 seed the Bengals. 10 seed the Broncos. And the Bengals and Broncos play this week in Denver.
Pretty amazing job this year with the Broncos. I don't know if they played anyone. I mean, they beat the Cowboys. They beat up on whoever they played, the Lions yesterday. But I can't think of who they've beaten. But they're gonna be really good next year when they get Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah, that's at this point. I mean, it's the Elway curse, it's the Kaepernick curse. But like, just he's out of there now. You just have to go and get a quarterback for that damn team.
Pretty impressive.
You think Aaron Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay?
That's one of. Well, I think he has to. I mean, I think the Packers have to move on from him. I mean, they're just otherwise. Like the draft pick is just they're gonna keep him for another year, and then Love's gonna be on a 1-year deal, and they're gonna go to Love, and they have to like financially they just painted themselves into such a corner from a financial decision.
How can you? I mean, he's right in the thick of winning an MVP again, like having a number 1 seed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. I just feel like there's a lot of too many bridges burned. He's probably mad at some behind the scenes leaking of medical information or whatever. I just feel like, the whole not drafting wide receivers, and he probably sees like, you know what, he's a spite. He maybe like, I mean, he just seems like a spiteful guy. He seems like a guy that's like, let me just go to a team that looks like they're on the cusp and basically do a Brady. It's like, let me just go to a team that looks like they're ready. I mean, the offense on the Broncos team has got some pieces. So, I mean, signs point to him going. I don't know. What
listen,
do you think,
the Giants being in town this weekend, there was a lot of, my New York football Giants friends, not naming names here, but a lot of people in town that are telling me things that I should be looking out for in the coming years. And one of the big drunken Saturday night topics of conversation was where not is Aaron Rodgers leaving, but where is Aaron Rodgers leaving to? And I was like, really? Oh, I didn't know it was like a for sure, like that next year he's gone. And I mean, I think you got to imagine that the end of this season will have a lot of say in that. I mean, but then it becomes like,
what if they win a Super Bowl?
Right? Does the Super Bowl help him stay or help him leave? Like, I don't know. Just go, okay, well, there's the second one I got you guys, and now like I don't want to hear it. I'm out of here. Don't give me any fucking grief about it. Or, the fan base rips them apart for letting go a guy who just won a Super Bowl for them. But because it's certainly with last night's performance, it's certainly in the mix now.
Well, you just alluded to it, Russell Wilson as well. Who would you guys have higher odds leaves, or are they about equal, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers leaving their team?
I mean, from a situational standpoint, you just got to say Russ, because I think the team is in shambles. I mean, I feel like they've just dug themselves a grave with some bad thoughts, bad moves over the years. I mean, including the Jamal Adams trade has not worked out for them. They don't seem to have any. I'm sure Russ is frustrated because they can't see. They don't have. There's been some injuries, but there's no real continuity in what they're trying to do offensively. There's like everyone wants to let Russ cook. But if you look at their stats, they're in the bottom 4 or 5 of plays run per game. They run like 60 plays per game, like almost a quarter less than some opponents. There's just no real flow to that team. I mean, yesterday they got it going yesterday, but they played a not very good team.
Yeah.
So Metcalf, they haven't really hit Metcalf much this year. There just seems to be a lot of it. I just feel like Russ is also. Sorry to interrupt you, Joe. Is it?
No.
What's his moniker? What's his thing? Mr. Whatever.
Unlimited.
Yeah, Mr. Unlimited. Just like he just wants a chance to be on a brighter spotlight.
Yeah, but Russ, Joe and I's common ground, I think, at this point, like he's better when he's not Mr. Unlimited. He's better when.
Look, I think we're probably all in agreement. But
okay, when he's throwing the ball 25 times a game.
I'm not talking about, but Russ feels differently. You know what I mean?
But he'd be wrong statistically. He'd be wrong. He performs better when he throws the ball less.
I mean, I would say Russ has the greater odds of leaving simply because everything I know about sports at this point, Russ coming out and saying, I have a no trade clause and I'm not going to waive my no trade clause. I'm here to stay. And say, I'm like, oh, so you're 100% leaving.
Yeah.
Got it.
And both players have sort of hinted that the Broncos are a place that they want to go. So, and that's interesting to me. So I think there's a good shot that one of them does in there. Even though Teddy's always been like, I don't know. What do you guys think of Teddy? He's like not great or even good, but he has found ways to. He's such a middling quarterback. Like he's not bad by any means,
right?
But he hasn't been able to fully elevate some teams.
He's always in the mix. There's just throws he can't make. Then it becomes this game manager thing with that. They have a playmaker defense. They've got some weapons on offense. Like it's the same thing he did with the Saints, but in the end,
he's been on so many teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
but in the end, he's one of those guys. It's like you put him on the Panthers, and what was he when the team around it wasn't great? He wasn't elevating the team. He can play fine on a good team, but that's, if you look at the Broncos, I mean, pre Peyton Manning, it's the exact same thing. They were like, just give us a quarterback who can elevate the people around. And Peyton Manning with half a neck comes in there, sets offensive records, wins goes to two Super Bowls, wins one. Like,
that's prime to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Early call. Look ahead. 2 of those 7 and 6 teams play next week. Bengals, Broncos in Denver. Who do you guys like? Did the Bengals lose a third in a row?
Is there a line out yet?
No, I haven't even looked at the line. I'm sure there is, but
I'm sure there is. I haven't. I'll dig it up while we're talking. I sort of lean. I'll go to Joe.
I mean, I lean Broncos because, like, the Broncos look at the teams that they're losing to. Like, I think Broncos on the road is a far more difficult game than the Niners at home.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I'm going to bring up something. Shout out to Tyler Hawkins for always doing the great analytics for our show. Because I wanted to ask him that. Because I knew
-1.5 according to ESPN.
Okay.
Who's that? Broncos?
Denver's -1.5.
Wow. So they're saying Bengals are better on a neutral field.
So, because I know the Bengals are 3-4 at home this year. So I said, what's the breakdown? So this is the breakdown. This is the current breakdown. Oh, he's changing it in real time. Is he changing it in real time? Tyler, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay. In real time, or right now, home teams it's 100. Home teams have won 100 games. Away teams have won 103 and 1 with 1 tie. So it's almost even this year as far as home versus away, which is pretty great. It's basically saying home field advantage isn't mattering. Now in 2020, home field didn't matter at all because there was no fans. In 2020, it was 134, 121, and 1. So basically, there's only a 3-game difference this year. It's almost 500. So home field really hasn't mattered this year in the NFL. I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting, right? I feel like the days of, home field advantage is huge. Well, statistically this year, it's just not.
I think also the way stadiums have changed, the way, locations, like obviously the Chargers don't have a home field advantage whatsoever. Like, you look at certain teams where it doesn't matter. I think the
Bengals don't. There was, I would say there was 30% Niners fans at that game yesterday.
Yeah. I think there's, I would say there's a handful of teams where really like they almost have a home field disadvantage, and then teams where it just like doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you flip that game in the Niners stadium, there wouldn't be any Niners fans there either. I mean, same thing happened with in Dallas yesterday. I mean, there was many more. The Washington football team was booed when they came out yesterday because there were so many Cowboys fans there. But I'll say this to answer your question. I will take the Bengals partly because of what you're saying. And I also think, like, I believe in recency bias. I feel like people saw the Broncos win, play well, Bengals stumble. And but the line tells me that the Vegas is not confident in the home team. So I'll go ahead and take the 1.5 points for the Bengals.
Are we you just talked about it. Can we talk about your Cowboys finally?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is what the Tug signal was put out for, the Paper Tiger report.
Paper Tigers. Are they Paper Tigers? No, they're locked in as the 4 seed. And I think, frankly, like, that's where they should be ranked. I mean, like, let's not say that they're better than the Cardinals. Cardinals, I think, are still, I'd love to see the Cardinals make a run. I think they're really a fun team. Can we trust them in the playoffs? I don't think you can trust them more than the same 2 teams that were in the conference championship last year, the Packers and the Bucks. Like, you have to imagine that those 2 are probably the favorites to come out. And then you have the Cowboys, kind of rightfully locked in at the 4 seed. And they got to play maybe the Rams, in the first game. Like, that's
right.
Pretty much a toss-up. So are they Paper Tigers? I'm not going to say Paper Tigers because I don't value them more than where they are. I think they're perfectly rated in the NFC. I think they have a chance to they almost beat the Bucks early in the year. The problem is the Bucks look just solid. Like they look, it's a typical Tom Brady run organization where it's like he knows what to do against what team. Fournette looks as good as he's been. They're talented. I mean, Gronkowski's back to his old self. I mean, I just don't feel like that they're better. Like the Cowboys are better than them. So I think they're perfectly placed.
I see what you're saying. So they're not paper tigers because they're where they're sitting is where you think they should be sitting.
Correct.
Now, do you think that this Cowboys team could win this Super Bowl? Could, like, in some world, go on a run, get through the NFC, and beat whatever team came out of the AFC?
I do think they can win it. I don't think they will win it, but it would have to be like a March Madness style thing where a couple teams get knocked out. The team out of the AFC is sort of a, it's like, whatever. It is the Bills or whoever is, somehow the AFC North champion makes it out. We'll talk about the AFC in a second because I'm as perplexed in that conference as I am about the Cowboys. But the Cowboys the Cowboys always play the Packers tough. Aaron Rodgers has made some great throws to beat Dallas in the past, had some bad luck with the refereeing. So I would expect that to be a good game. I think we're learning. Pollard was out this week, but I think hopefully McCarthy's learning that Pollard is the more explosive player at this point, and so we kind of utilize that. And Amari's getting healthy. So I think like the defense is ball hawkish. You know what I mean? Like they can get
Parsons
burnt,
and Diggs, just
Parsons
incredible.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best I've ever seen. Like in my lifetime, like Lawrence Taylor came out he was a little before, I was watching games. I would say Parsons is one of the best defensive rookies I've ever seen. I think he's that good. I really do.
What's amazing about that is they drafted him as an inside linebacker, and then they moved him to outside because of an injury, and basically changed the landscape of the Cowboys defense, but also his own trajectory as a player. He should be legitimately considered the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, he's in the mix for sure
this year, and Diggs can get burned, and I think that's the problem. Like you might play Aaron Rodgers, who gives you a double move, and he's toasted. The Cowboys give up top 5 most yards in double moves.
But that's sort of, obviously the coaching staff has changed a lot, but post Cowboys, like Super Bowl dynasty era, that's the thing. Like even when the Cowboys have good defenses, they're susceptible to giving up huge plays and like huge scoring games. Like they, through all the years where it was like the Romo, our defense is pretty good. It's like they never had a defense that was like, this is like a stout. You can count on them to just lock a team down. And that's still who they are. Like, from week to week, you're like, is this defense good? Or is this defense just dynamic in spots?
Yeah, I would say dynamic in spots. They've like, let's don't get crazy. When we played the Saints 2 weeks ago, Taysom Hill, he was just his first start of the year that I can recall. Good spot for the Cowboys. Then you have Heineke, who I actually do like, but when you get to a best, Heineke reminds me of like Garoppolo. Garoppolo, in the first quarter if you're going to have a good Garoppolo game or not, because they just kind of get into a rhythm. They start to find rhythm in the games, and if the rhythm is bad, which Heineke experienced, it's going to be rough sledding. So to answer your question, I'm enjoying the Cowboys team, but they're the same team. They play down their competition. Hopefully they can get up to beat the Rams, and then I think that they'll have a really good chance to beat one of those top 4 teams because they do play up to their competition. The Cardinals and the Cowboys actually play in a week or two, so that'll be a fun test to see where we are. But to me, I think the 2 Titans are still the Packers and the Buccaneers, and I would still take the Buccaneers at this point. Just because I think they're a more complete team.
No, I think Joe and I both agree. I would, if it was a first round Rams, Dallas in Dallas, I'm taking the Rams. I think they're paper tigers. I don't see them beating the Rams. I don't see them beating even like the Packers. Games are going to be tough. They're going to be close because it's the playoffs. I don't know. Nothing about this team Like, what's the standout game? You're talking about they played the Bucs close. That was week 1. You know, what's the standout game for the Cowboys this year where you're like, wow, if they play like this, they could go far.
I mean, there really is none.
And that's kind of my point.
Well, I mean, we're not arguing too far off the same thing. It's like,
okay.
I'm not saying that they're. I mean, I think I've said what I've had to say, but the most disappointing thing was the loss to the Raiders. To me, that was a really disappointing loss. Like, that's a loss. And they always seem to be a little bit of a letdown in the past few years with the Thanksgiving game. Like, they lost the Chargers a few years back with Hunter Henry went off, but that's the game. Like, the Raiders look terrible. The Raiders are terrible right now, and to have that one game where they didn't have a chance to dominate a team was really disappointing. I will say this though, the paper tiger to me is the question you need to ask is, are the Cardinals paper tigers? Because they're actual 1 seed. You know, we just say, do we believe in this team? We'll learn a lot tonight on Monday Night Football,
for sure,
if we think this team is good. But yes, I think the Cowboys played the Rams in the playoffs in the Coliseum 2 or 3 years ago. They lost.
We were calling that live. I don't know if you recall this, at the Smut Studio.
Oh, cool. I was there. I was there. I went to the game.
Okay. You're right. So you were at the game. Joe, that would have been us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all kind of saying the same thing about the Cowboys in one way or the other. Like, I'm on the same page where it's like, yeah, do I think that they would beat the Rams at home? And like, no, but they certainly could. And then to me, the question, and then Tug saying, well, if we get a March Madness run of opponents, and I'm just sort of like, listen, there's nothing about this Cowboys team that tells me they can reel off 4 straight wins against playoff quality opponents. But on paper, none of those teams are like, oh, I couldn't see them beating a Bucs team. I couldn't see them beating a Rams team or a Packers team. Yeah, I could see them beating any of those teams in a vacuum, but I don't see them doing it a couple weeks in a row. And then the Cowboys showing up in the playoffs and going, yeah, we beat the Rams at home. Now we got to go on the road to the Bucs or the Packers, and we win that game. And then we go, I just don't see that. But
to me, the scenario is, I would love to see the Cowboys slip into the 3 seed somehow. And then you get a 3-6 matchup or something, whatever that matchup is. And then you have to beat one good team, and then potentially have to play the Cardinals in the conference championship. Because I think if you play the Cardinals in a conference championship, it's probably a 50-50 game at that point to me. With Kyler playing his first game, Kingsbury, like, you don't know what you're going to get in that situation. So to me, like, you want to really work hard to get to that 3 seed.
But I think it's the Arizona. I think it's their defense that no one talks about enough. Like, I think that's why they're so good. It's obviously Murray missed 3 or 4 games. Their defense is so good. It's kept them at the 1 seed. Like it's just undervalued. And I agree. I don't know, because it is tough. A guy who's never been in the playoffs, a coach who's never been in the playoffs. Experience, as we know, is so key come playoff time.
I mean, we're going to learn a lot about the Cardinals in the last few weeks. They have the Rams, obviously, on Monday Night Football. You have a Lions game. That's, chalk that up to win. But then you got, a frisky Colts team in Arizona. Then you have the Cowboys on the road. And then, week 17 or week 18, I guess it is now, you have a Seahawks Cardinals game, which, like, that's almost a litmus test game too, because, like, where are you at in terms of playing for the 1 seed or not playing for the 1 seed? Like, are you sitting guys? Are you just kicking the shit out of a team that's kind of like run the division for a little bit of time?
Joe, where is that game? The last game of the year, Seattle.
That is in Seattle. That might be in Arizona.
It's in Arizona.
I still think Seattle wins that game, by the way. I see Seattle is going to ruin whatever the Rams have going for it. I mean, even if they don't play, if the 1 seed's locked up, the Seahawks will win. And if the Rams need it, I think the Seahawks will win. That's just how I foresee that game going. Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, for me, I think they'll beat the Rams if they do play in a playoff game. I think we have to remember Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford played really good against the Cowboys in a playoff game a few years ago, but there was some weird calls in that game.
There was the questionable pass interference that game.
There was, yeah. I remember. But it still feels like a situation where almost like Matt Stafford is the quarterback that you want to play in the playoff. If you have a ball hawking team, you kind of want Matt Stafford to be on the other side sometimes. So I would lean Cowboys in that game. But further than that, I think one win is a nice good win. If you get 2 wins in the playoff, it's a great year for the Cowboys.
By the way, his legacy, there's a lot in the line for Stafford, I think, right? Because he's still not. I know he was in Detroit, but he still never won a playoff game. Which, whatever, you're in Detroit. Like, if he doesn't win a playoff game this year, I think that just puts so much pressure on him moving forward, because he does have the obviously they had a big injury to Robert Woods, but you do have the boy genius, so to speak, in McVay. I just think he might feel a lot of pressure, right? And that would be tough, a road game to start the playoffs. But if he doesn't win a playoff game, I'll ask you, Joe, because obviously you're a big Stafford guy. Like, does that make you reevaluate Stafford if he doesn't win a playoff game?
Well, I mean, I think if you're Rams brass, you're like, we're in to this guy either way. What was the other option? We ride the Jared Goff train forever, and we know he's an upgrade from that. But I think it's a similar thing where I almost think he has to win multiple playoff games, because I mean, in terms of, yeah, the draw. Oh, you get a tough draw, like your first. I honestly, I think like the end of this year, the rest of this year is the beginning of it. Like, fight to, you got the Cardinals tonight. You got to fight to move up, put yourself in a position where potentially you get a home playoff game, and then, I think if you go on the road to a Cowboys and you absolutely have to win that game, or else, like, what are we talking about? Because you have a home game a couple years ago against a Cowboys team and you win it. Last year you win a road playoff game with your backup in, which, arguably probably played better than Goff would have. But yeah, I think that's the whole point of this move, is leaning into this is the difference. So yeah, I think, this, if you're the Rams, you got to be playing in an NFC Championship game to feel like that you did something. It's like, okay, we can build on that. We were right. We got the new quarterback. He immediately takes us to a conference championship. And now what do we do around him?
I just want to jump in and say that's one of the reasons why I like the Cowboys in a playoff, because everyone focuses on the Cowboys almost in every game, except the Rams this year, when everyone knows the Rams are all in. It's almost like there's more pressure. It's weird to have a game where the Cowboys need to win a Super Bowl less than someone does. Like, the Rams are more on the clock. So to me, it's like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen a scenario where the Cowboys have less pressure to win a game than the Rams do. So that to me was like another reason why I would probably lean towards the Dallas win in the playoffs. But a few weeks to go, remains to be seen. A lot of things are going to happen. There's going to be more player injuries. There's going to be more COVID situations. It's like you can't really get too far ahead of things in the NFL.
Yeah,
I know.
You need Amari Cooper to start hanging out with like some Alabama guys from other teams in his free time.
Yeah, exactly.
And who knows? Will the Jacksonville Jaguars score another point, or will Urban Meyer finish out the year? There's a lot to unfold. Can we jump into the Urban Meyer? We have to jump into the Urban Meyer situation, because from all reports I've read, they're going to keep him around. How can you possibly keep Urban Meyer at this point? And the reports, which he's refuting, are that what happened yesterday. There was a huge dispute in the locker room with receiver Marvin Jones. And then at a staff meeting, did you guys read this? Urban went crazy, and apparently he said
all his coaching staff are losers
and that he's a winner. And now he's saying anybody who's leaking this stuff and that it's not true. First of all, he's been a liar his whole life, so I don't believe anything Urban Meyer says.
Right.
They're going to be fired. I just like disaster after disaster, bad PR. Like, how can this situation maintain for a second year? I just don't know how. Like how. I know it sucks, and we have a call which is kind of about the Jags. Let me just play this call because I thought it's kind of interesting. I hadn't really thought about this. Let me play the call real quick.
Hey, Joe and Andy, this is Dawson from beautiful Bellingham, Washington. I was thinking that with all the stuff going down with Urban Meyer and the Jags, I was wondering, because, you know, they were in the AFC Championship game not too long ago. I was wondering, have you guys ever seen, or what is your most famous / notable team? Have you ever seen a team that has destroyed what could be a contender and had so much young talent, so much promise? Because back then they went toe-to-toe with the Patriots. They were a couple plays from the Super Bowl. Have you ever seen a team fall apart so quickly due to their own self-destruction? You know, getting rid of Ngakoue, getting rid of Jalen Ramsey, keeping Blake Bortles. Like, have you ever seen a team so hell-bent on their own destruction? Let me know what you boys think. And condoms are for anyone who thinks that Urban Meyer was ever going to be a good coach.
Well, I definitely agree with that last part.
Yeah. So it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So there was some time, but I never thought about it until he left that call. I mean, I know teams will have their 1 year out of nowhere, like the NFL. You never know what to expect, but they really did just make off. That was a good squad. That was a really good squad.
I think it was a good squad, but also a flawed squad. And when you're there and you have that, you have that magical run, and of course it ends at the hands of the Patriots, that you are in a position where you go, do we dismantle or do we go all in? And the idea that you would be that close and you wouldn't say, hey, we got to the AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles. Maybe we just keep everybody here and replace Blake Bortles. You know, that's essentially what McVay said with the Rams. You know, we got there, we were on the cusp, we didn't do it. I think that the problem is the quarterback. Let's just do everything that we have to. Now, Blake Bortles played fine, but again, like the idea that they somehow survived that game, did they go on and win that Super Bowl? Probably not.
Yeah, that would have been against the Eagles.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that's the move that you have there. And then also, you know, you get a couple more pieces. They were right there. I mean, what I'm saying, I guess, is like you really had two choices. Like the idea of just like sticking around and seeing if we can come back next year and do it again, like that, it wasn't really legitimate. But the idea to not go the other way and just say, yeah, let's throw whatever we have to, because look at what they've done now. They've thrown everything at Urban Meyer. Like this was your plan, instead of just like going like, hey, we're right here. Let's take like the Tom Coughlin leadership and, you know, the coaching staff that's in place, all these, you know, talented players that we got because we were drafting really high, and just get the missing piece, get the 40-year-old Peyton Manning, get the Matt Stafford, get whoever you need that says, yeah, I can take young guys and I can lead them to a championship.
You know, the one team that comes to mind, you know, is the late aught Jets team. They kind of had things rolling, you know, for a couple of years and then just fell apart as not recovered from that.
Yeah.
In a similar situation where it's like really good, you know, defense, sort of like a middling quarterback situation. And I think this is sort of maybe the theme of the episode. I mean, Joe and I always talk about quarterbacks when we come in here, but like organizations knowing what to do with the quarterback situation. You know, I think people learned from the Bortles situation, probably not the best idea to extend them. So now you look at people like the Rams who move on from their quarterback. They kind of cut bait a little early. You look at Kingsbury, you know, getting away from Josh Rosen after 1 year. So I think teams are maybe showing the model right now is to like move a year early rather than move a year late with things. This is me talking about Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson situations, knowing how to balance that. So the problem to me is with the Jaguars is at some point Amir Khan's got to be held accountable for as one of the worst owners in the league. You know, under Tom Coughlin, 3/4 of the player violations that were called in for some sort of abuse, whether it was verbal or oral, came from under the Tom Coughlin regime to the NFL. Now, whatever people need to want to say about that is like there's something going on, something's not being addressed internally.
Right.
And this continues to bleed into Urban. The only thing I'll say about Urban, where's the lie? These coaches are losers. They are losers.
Right. But he hired them.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking. Joking. This is indefensible.
Honestly, I think the answer for the Jaguars is you had an opportunity where you draft the guy that for 3 years everybody is saying is the next Andrew Luck. Like on paper, he's the great, quarterback savior. There's that moment there where he's obviously has an opportunity to be the face of your franchise, and you literally hire someone that is more the face of the franchise. Like that, when you think of the Jaguars now, you think Urban Meyer. And I know that in the player empowerment era across sports, you don't want to give one player or, a couple players so much say that they, the inmates are running the asylum. But at the same point, it's like, how is the answer, at least if not before this season, right now, how is the answer not, listen, Trevor Lawrence, who do you want to coach this team? You want us to go get fucking, your college coach? You want us to go, like, who do you want to coach this team? Like, because this is the way it's got to be. I think the Jaguars are such a kind of dysfunctional franchise that whether Trevor Lawrence has shown you he's the next great quarterback or not, I think you have to go all in on that idea as opposed to going all in on Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that is a great point that I couldn't agree more with. When you think of that organization now, you don't think about the next, like they have been hyping up Trevor Lawrence, like you said, for 3 years as the next Andrew Luck, the prodigy, the boy genius, a quarterback. I literally just think of Urban Meyer when I think of the Jags now.
To me, that's why you point the blame all the way up to the top. I mean, it's like Con has got, it's like the three of us, with all due respect, are just guys on the street. And every guy on the street knew Urban was the wrong choice for this.
Right.
Sure.
It was never a good idea.
Yeah, so everyone agreed.
Everyone knew this.
Yeah, every shitty podcast. Like, how many years did he last? 2 years? 3 years?
Like every listener to this podcast knew this was a bad idea. So
hold on, Joe. Swingman _9.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out to Swingman.
He's like, well, I didn't know that they weren't going to have the Allen brothers.
But the thing I'll say is, Andy pointed to or allude to the fact that they're going to maybe keep him around. I think what's going to happen is, to save face, he's going to respectfully bow out and say he wasn't fired. He's like, you know what? He might lean on his health issues, stress level thing.
If that comes back again, I will love it.
Yeah. And so I think my gut is we won't see him for a year or two. And he'll probably say, there'll be some internal discussions and he'll say, look, I'm going to move on. Because again, I mean, if we, like Joe said, every NFL team, same thing about Jordan Love. Like, you need to start seeing what these young guys can do, because that's the best time to build your team in that window. So, yeah.
Well, look, I have some good advice for Jags fans. We all know how important mental health and your well-being is. Luckily, here at Dirty Sports, we have a great app where you can talk to someone. Can you imagine being a Jags fan, Joe? 4 years of this, now Urban Meyer.
4 years, yeah. How about 25 years of this?
Right? Guys, if you need to talk to someone, licensed therapist over at Talkspace can help you. They're available 24/7. They have over thousands of licensed therapists that'll reach out to you. You can schedule live video sessions with your licensed therapist from anywhere. So if you're a Jags fan in Florida, if you're a Jags fan in London, the hot spots, wherever the Jags fans are, you can reach out to a licensed therapist at Talkspace.
Duval.
At any time. So if you feel like your mental health has been stuck on the sidelines, Talkspace is here to help. Match with a licensed therapist when you go to Talkspace.com and get $100 off your first month with promo code DIRTY. That's DIRTY. That's $100 off when you use code DIRTY at Talkspace.com. And it really is a great app, guys. Obviously, I talk a lot about going to therapy, and Talkspace has helped me a lot. And it's really helped me as I've basically decided I have no life now in the Midwest, like Tug alluded to earlier. These are great things that I talk about with my therapist on Talkspace.com. So use promo code DIRTY to get $100 off.
And the best part is you can do it from anywhere. Like yesterday, I called into Talkspace from SoFi in the third quarter. Once the Giants, had officially rolled over, I was like, why don't I just get my Monday therapy appointment in early on a Sunday afternoon from my 8th row seats at SoFi?
That's a great segue, Joe, as well. Can we talk about seeing the Giants live? You and Tuck have both been to SoFi. We'll do, I don't think we can do Michael Majid reviews.
Yeah.
He's the upper echelon.
Yeah,
of stadium reviews.
I'm not a Majid pretender. I'm not trying to be that's part of his brand. I'm just here to tell you about my experience of the game. I didn't write down. I don't have anything on my teleprompter here. But first of all, the from a game standpoint, like really, it almost feels like I dug my own grave. Like I feel like I spent the last 4 weeks on this show talking about how the Chargers, for some reason, especially against, defenses that can't possibly, stay with receivers that long, why they don't drive the ball down the field more. And then, of course, they were like, hey, Joe, we see you there and we heard you. How do you like this Justin Herbert scramble and 70-yard bomb? How do you like a lot of long crossing routes just tearing apart your Giants defense? I was like, well, it feels nice while you're stabbing me in the throat to tell me like you were right, but I'm still going to die from it. So from a game standpoint, it was difficult. And also like, I didn't really have high expectations. I mean, the Mike Glennon era is upon us.
It's amazing.
We had Jake Fromm lurking. Everybody was rooting for Fromm to show up in the second half. So many injuries and just such a debacle of a season. But beautiful. SoFi was awesome. The stadium, like the build of the stadium, I think Tug will agree, incredible. Like it's an incredible specimen of a football stadium. There are like little things that are weird about it. Like we took your seats to get into the stadium, and then I got what I will only briefly describe as the J. Lloyd upgrade. And so then we had seats on the 100 level in like the 8th row, one of the corners of the end zone. And what was really weird is like it's so hard to like go level to level, specifically to go from just like the 200 level to the 100 level. Like we had to go down like 15 escalators somehow. Like I can see the seats from the 200. I'm like, I'm 20 rows away. And it's like, you can't do this. First, you have to take an escalator that skips like the suite entrances and whatever. So it was like a debacle to get down to those seats. Nothing for some reason is like marked. I sent you a picture of the bathroom. Like I left my seats and like went to the bathroom, stumbled around for like 10 minutes, finally found this lady. And she's like, well, this is like a single stall family bathroom. You don't want that. She's like, what section are you in? I was like 123. And she's like, there's a bathroom right outside the door to your section. So I was like, how is that possible that I missed that? And I walked back. It's unmarked. It's just a door. Doesn't have a human being man on it. Doesn't have a dressed like nothing. I sent you the picture. There's no markings that says this is a bathroom. I was like, okay, well, there's 20 minutes of this football game I won't get back.
Well, I sent, if I can hop in real quick. I said the equivalent to you off air, the unmarked bathrooms with no signage. It's the cool bar that doesn't have a sign.
Yeah.
It's almost like LA, and it's very LA, a new LA stadium. Like they were trying to be so chic that they don't label the bathrooms. You just find them. It's like the cool bar. You just find it.
And that's cool if there was like little speakeasies in SoFi. But now when I got to take a piss, I'm like running out with a minute left to go in the half, try to beat the crowd.
Yeah.
But I mean, a great place to watch a football game. Almost everything outside of the actual watching the game is kind of like, there's no tailgating. Like tailgating is pretty much limited to one parking lot where I think you need like a tailgating ticket. There didn't seem to really be like a great vibe. Like there's like a nightclub on the field level, but like no one knows how to get there. It didn't really seem like there's like a great, like, oh, there's these, even on the, whatchamacallit, like the walking, areas where they had these bars overlook, those were all like block, like you need a special ticket just to get into these bars that sort of overlook the field. So as far as the stadium review goes, you're in the seat, you're watching a football game. It's pretty awesome. Otherwise, the sort of the bells and whistles are misconstructed, if you ask me.
I mean, there's still some things I need to figure out in year 2. I mean, maybe marking some bathrooms would be good. The food also, it leaves a little to be desired. I took my son to the Cowboys Chargers game. I wasn't lucky enough to get Andy's seats, so I had to buy some. And I didn't know if my 5-year-old would want to stay the whole game, so I bought them pretty high up because I was like, I'm not going to spend $800 on 2 quarters.
Yeah.
But having said that, the seats up on the highest level are still really good. I mean, it's kind of a fun vantage point to see everyone in the space and see the full design from like a panoramic view. I agree with you. Kind of hard to get around. There is like a nice on the wings. There's the Forum that's probably like 250 yards away. The old Forum where the Lakers played. It's like in the same area, and they have a lot of concerts there. The Strokes played there. Tame Impala. So it's kind of a cool little area. And with the Clippers coming eventually, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be a hot little spot. I mean, for you, what is it? 10-15 minutes to get there as the crow flies. Like, yeah, it's pretty awesome to have so much stuff happening on the west side of LA for us. We're still learning how to get in and out of these places too. But I would say I do agree with you. Oh, the food, I mentioned this. I want to get a pretzel. They're like the pretzel boxes and they rotate.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, they look nice. I was like, let me get a pretzel. I thought she was going to grab one out of the box. She reached down below and grabbed me like it was an unsalted mound of bread. And I was like, this is a disaster. I handed it to my kid and he was like, this looks awful. So,
the only thing I ate there was like pizza. There's a stand. It looks like it's pizza and they're handing out pizza boxes. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting like this small personal pizza. I was like, yeah, I'll take a cheese. She hands me it. I open it. It's essentially just like one big square, essentially like New York Sicilian slice that has been burnt. I mean, it's burnt to like it was darker than Saquon Barkley. Like it was the darkest piece of pizza I've ever. I was like, can I return this? She's like, whoa, it's the last cheese we have left. And I was like, this is unbelievable. The food was awful.
Well, that's cheese. Yeah, I was gonna say
I see no cheese. There's no cheese on this.
I feel, obviously I haven't been to a game there, but I feel like that's been the harshest critique of the stadium has been the food.
Something very LA was, okay, so the pretzel didn't work out. I was like, let's get some ice cream. The only ice cream we could find was vegan ice cream. I'm like, come on, LA. This is ridiculous. All we do
there is like a weird LA. It's almost like takes all the worst parts of LA too. Yeah. Like my girlfriend described the bowels of the stadium as feeling like she was in Kanye West's living room. She's like, everything's white, nothing's marked. It seems like, I was like, yeah, it's very weird.
And to me, that's like, know your audience. These are people who want to see a football game. They don't want vegan ice cream. Like, for as much as I shit in the Bengals, hey, their main food there is Gold Star chili. Like, they know their audience. Yeah. Just fat Midwest people who want to shove chili in their face while the Bengals lose. Like, know your audience. Like, to me, and I don't know if they would even do it, but like, get an in and out deal at the stadium or get
100%. Isn't that what I said when we went for the tour? It's like, where's just lean into, the locals, have a Randy's donut spot, have an in and out spot, have a taco spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see Randy's from the fourth deck. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. I go ahead, Doug.
I was just going to say, I'm going to give them a pass on year one. We're all learning, like they're probably like 1 year deals. So let's go next year and see what improvements they made. And then we'll do like a full, like, love it or leave it sort of venue.
And I think that they're hearing I think it's one of those things where it's going to really get dialed in, because I heard from a few people who went early in the season that one thing that was like not necessarily well done by them, but was in some way fan friendly, is a couple of people were like, it just seems like they have no security whatsoever. Like people, you could just go wherever, like you could walk on the field and no one would stop you. And then yesterday for me, I was like, I encountered a security guard every 3 feet. So maybe they saw some holes in their security and they've overdone it. So I think it's going to take some time to just get all the little things dialed in, but it's not that hard. I mean, there's 30 of these in the country that work and have, food that's edible. Just figure it out.
I think it's Jerry Jones's company Legends that does the food. So
It
I'm gonna
is.
have to send in a phone call to old Jerry. We're like, come on.
It's his company that handles the food and the tickets.
Let's do it right.
Well, you mentioned Herbert. I mean, that pass, again, I was at my own game, but I watched it.
Happened right in front of me. I saw it develop.
Every report says that's the best pass in the NFL this year. Do we agree or disagree? As far as,
I mean, he threw it 70 plus yards
running.
In the air.
Okay, yeah. Every report says that's the best pass. Did you see it, Tug?
I didn't see it, but was it to Guyton?
Yeah.
Because I had Guyton playing fantasy yesterday.
Wasn't it Guyton Prano, or was it?
I know Guyton caught a 59-yarder. I don't know if that was the one, but
yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And I watched the development. I mean, he's just streaking down the field, and Herbert gets flushed out of the pocket. But as I've said about this Chargers offense, like this is what they can do that really few teams can do because no one has the arm strength. Is like as long as he survived, like Guyton just kept pulling away from the defensive back, and as the play went on, he's like, now he's a step ahead. Now he's 2 steps ahead. Now he's 5 steps. He's got 5 steps of separation, and you're like, okay, yeah, but he's 60 yards downfield, and Herbert just uncorks one and touchdown. I mean, I watched the whole thing develop. I was like, yep, that's the thing that they can do. That obviously, the Chiefs have done with Mahomes over the last couple of years, but that should be not bomb plays to end a half or whatever as your strategy. But like I've been saying about this team, and they did it a lot better yesterday, is like if you're a receiver and you're running, once you get to 20 yards, the guy's just going to be running next to you. You break an in route, you're going to be open 100% of the time. And if you can protect a guy who can then drive the ball 20 yards downfield, it's pretty undefensible.
I think they probably need to go out and get a guy that can do those things. I mean, you look at Keenan Allen, sort of a possession receiver. Mike Williams is kind of like a jump ball guy. So if they had that third vertical threat, then I think we're really, in business with what you're talking about. They're one of those teams. I feel like they're not quite. They're like a Cowboys comp to me. Like they're good.
Yeah.
Like I don't really fear them in the playoffs.
No,
but they're a good team that can probably beat some people.
They have no home field advantage because of their Legends corporation backing. Like it's the same. It's definitely. I'm going to fully
support Jerry in this. This is a Jerry experiment. Now I'm thinking about Jerry. It's an experimental year. We're going to get it right in year 2. Pretzels are going to be singing. So
which is, by the way, not we've talked about it, but not talked about too much. The main cog in Kroenke getting that stadium and everything and all the back end deals with Jerry Jones' company having the ticket service and the food service. I mean, Jerry Jones was the most instrumental person in getting those teams to LA and getting that stadium. And he's obviously raking in money off all that stuff happening, which is kind of funny because when I got my Chargers season tickets, it wasn't a Chargers employee when I went down to El Segundo for those tickets. The guy's like, no, dude, I work for Legends. I don't work for the Chargers.
Right.
Like I work for Jerry Jones.
Here's a question, Tug. I assume you've been to Jerry World.
I have.
And you had to have gone to Cowboy Stadium at some point prior to that.
I have.
Okay.
Yep.
So here's something that I felt yesterday and is sort of backed by also the change from the old Giant Stadium to the new MetLife is like, I feel like there's a trade-off that teams now make where you get the beautiful new stadium, you get the Super Bowl, you get all the things, the concerts, all the things that come with it, but you give away some portion of your home field advantage. Like these new stadiums are not conducive to like the rowdy, game-changing crowd. Like
it's not Kansas City.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants used to have a home field advantage at Giant Stadium. I feel like that's gone at MetLife. You know, now the home field advantage is like, is it windy? You know, like now obviously the Chargers are not the Rams in terms of their fan base here. LA fans in general also not the rowdiest bunch, but I don't see that. I don't see SoFi, no matter what happens to the Rams or the Chargers in terms of their success, being a place where people are afraid to play. It's just too loud. It's not going to happen.
No, I agree. I mean, the one model. How old is Invesco? Because I feel like the Seahawks have a relatively more modernish stadium that still presents a home field advantage.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, everyone talks about it. You go to Jerry World and it's beautiful. The lighting is interesting, and sometimes it kind of affects the games and weird afternoon games. But aesthetically, very, very pretty.
And we loved it. Andy and I went down there and we loved the experience. It was great, but it didn't feel like, oh my God, like the Giants, when we watched them play, had to worry about the crowd noise.
Yeah. So Lumen Field in Seattle was opened in 2002. And I agree. I think they're one of the few newer last 20 years.
20 years old. Yeah.
But has a home. Yeah. And I agree with Joe. That's exactly how we felt when we went to the Giants Cowboys game. I just remember saying there's no home field advantage here. There's and you really do give that up. You basically trade home field advantage for money in the suites,
because they're always the stadiums are always more sprawling and they're more like, that's what I said about going to the Superdome this year. You felt like you were in a room. Now I know that's like taken into consideration, like modern architectural, design, but you feel like you're in a loud room of football fans.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting, like real quick, to kind of lead back to the AFC and who we maybe think is going to come out of there and kind of how they're all bunched up. The Bills are in discussions for a new stadium. We all know they have a huge home field advantage. It's also an older stadium. So how, when they get a new stadium, how do the Bills kind of appease both, right? The corporate America or whoever is up there, the businesses are going to buy the suites, and also the Bills Mafia, because that's one of the great things, right, about Bills fans is they do have a huge home field advantage. Like, you need to somehow find a middle ground, which I think there's two layers to it. It's like pricing out the everyman and not, building building a stadium that isn't necessarily conducive to like noise and rowdiness and just like all the things that go along with it, like a tailgate. Drunk people are louder than sober people. Like, let people drink on your stadium. If you want to have a home field advantage, you should have an area where people can drink the booze that they brought themselves that isn't $50 a glass. Yeah.
I think one thing to think about is, there's so many business deals and handshakes going on to when these stadiums are built. Like, I almost feel like you just have to find the most passionate Bills architect, because it can be done. It can totally be done. It's like, but what, like,
is there is there a Bills fan that's actually an architect? I want to know that. Like, is there a single Bills Mafia
I mean, you've
fan?
seen some of these table towers.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it can be done. I will say the Bills probably have the one of the few weather of advantages. Like, I mean, they happen to play against the best coach of all time on Monday Night Football last week and kind of out game plan them, but like they have that built in. I mean, that's why they can never go dome. They have to basically do like a Lambeau style thing and just lean into that. But there's got to be a way. I mean, Jerry wants to win. Just before we move back to this, I mean, Jerry wants to win because he does these little things. He flies in the Cowboys benches yesterday.
Right.
Apparently the Washington football team has a T-shirt they sell with the helmets of each team they play against. They show like a matchup, like Washington football team versus the Giants. Except yesterday, Jerry did not approve it. So he did not approve the T-shirt yesterday. So, there is a level of pettiness and wanting to win. I wonder where Jerry can draw the line of being like, I'm gonna lose $1 billion on this, but I'm gonna help the Cowboys' chances of winning.
Well, I think that's the one thing about Jerry World and Dallas State is like that's very Dallas and it's very Jerry. Like everything in Dallas like sits on its own 5,000 acre. Yeah. It's like you're not just like putting it in an area where everybody's going to drive up and get drunk. It's like that's not Texas is like everybody's got fucking, acres around them. But in LA or in all these places where we're doing it. I mean, you look at San Francisco, they had a great home field advantage. Now their fan base hates their
one of the worst choices in NFL in sports history, probably.
Yeah.
To move it out of San Francisco. It's crazy.
Well, I guess they weigh the economics, right? Like they would say, hey, if we make this many more playoff games due to our home field advantage, does it rake in this many millions versus the corporate box suites, right? I don't know if they try to somehow figure out that.
Yeah, and I wonder if it goes that far because I feel like the economics of it are like, okay, if we sell, 2 beers to them for $25 instead of 10 beers to them for $5, like it's the same thing. You know what I mean? So I think that there's that, but like, are they considering the fact that you probably like hinder your chances of winning, which could obviously make you more money? Like that's how you cultivate a fan base from children, right? Is like I'm a Mets fan. The Mets were good when I was a kid. Yankees weren't. Like that's how you end up being a fan. Like be good. You'll find fans. Look in LA. I mean, obviously the Rams got here first, but the Chargers will never catch the Rams because the Rams got here first and are good.
Yeah. So the drinks they were selling yesterday in the suite level where we had our seats yesterday, it was $25 vodka drinks. They were orange drinks for the Bengals. They look like cough syrup. Obviously, I don't drink, so I wasn't having them. But my buddy and I were talking about it. We're like, dude, $25 mixed drinks.
Like some guy who drove in from Kentucky is like, I could eat at Applebee's for 2 weeks. At Applebee's, they give me 2 for $20. You're giving me 1 for $25.
Yeah. Right. Like my buddy was all excited. He's like, dude, we got $50 vouchers per seat for food and drinks. And I'm laughing thinking that's 2 drinks. Like it doesn't go that far. But who do you guys like right now in the AFC? As we alluded to, the AFC North is Lamar Jackson gets hurt. It's like a Prano predicts. We discussed his contract last week. You said you would not extend him because you said he's Cam Newton. He's on the brink of that Cam Newton injury thing. And here it is.
I just think it's so difficult. The NFL is so fast and it's just a mileage game. It's just, it's just oil changes. Like you can't just play quarterback and put yourself in the position to take those hits and not end up hurt. It's not his fault. It's not like, I mean, I guess it's his fault and that's his style of play, but like, this is like the idea that, he's not tough enough or he's injured, but like, that's not true. It's just, you can't survive it. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, for me, like you look at it at this point, like here come the Chiefs. At this point, if I had money to sprinkle around on who's going to be in the Super Bowl for the AFC, I'm putting the majority of my money on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I would too.
It was never not the Chiefs.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like there was that middle of the year, and it's like invest all your money now when they look sort of trying to figure it out a little bit because there was never a team that you feel like is really going to be scaring them. Now Belichick may want to put something together,
right?
But I would put my money on the Kansas City at this point.
Have you guys ever seen a bigger backfire? And I was laughing watching it. I was on the treadmill watching that game in real time of them like jumping on the logo of the Chiefs. And literally I'm watching it in real time. The first play of the game, Jacobs fumbles and they take it to the house. I'm like, I've never seen a backfire happen so quickly.
I watched the first half of the game and I thought of that. They're like, we're trying to fire ourselves up. We're slumping a little bit. And you're exactly right. It was not only the first play of the game. It was like the first 4 series all had a fumble or an interception or something bad happened. I mean, the game was over so fast.
Yep.
The morning games yesterday were not very good. It's good. No. As fun as the afternoon games turned around, like those games were like we would flip you off of this game, but the other game is just as bad.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, I was sitting here in the morning being like, how long do I, let these morning games run before I eject and go and head to the stadium? Like how, I got to play I don't want to get there too early, but I don't want to miss too much of these games. Blah, blah. And then I was just like, oh, I can leave right now. Like these games suck.
First quarter, it's like this game's terrible.
And listen, we both liked the Raiders with the points on a backdoor, but like I knew after the first, I was like, no, that's it. What the Raiders needed, and I never thought the Raiders had a chance to win that game. But in terms of, for you gambling, is like, oh, it's, kind of a shootout. They're always chasing the 17 points. They're always down 2 touchdowns. And then you get the late one where, Kansas City's just trying to run out the clock. But yeah, I mean, that game was over in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the Raiders just go out to the middle of the field and shoot themselves in the dick.
Yeah.
They're like, hey guys, we don't want to win this game. We're going to celebrate right here. Ugh.
I mean, that's one of the few games. Because to me, the NFL now is very similar to the NBA, where I always say no lead is safe. And I've seen it back-to-back weeks live, where, like yesterday, 49ers have a 2-touchdown lead heading into the fourth quarter. I'm like, I straight up said to my buddy who's a Bengals fan, I go, the Bengals will make a push. Just they're home, no lead is safe. Right? Same thing happened last week. The Chargers,
Cleveland Browns yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Cleveland, like you're seeing it time and time again. Steelers, Vikings have 29 points. Like to me, it's like the NBA. The NBA, they're going to make a run. Teams are making runs now. No lead is safe, but that was one of the few exceptions. The minute he fumbled that first play, I was like, this game's over. It's literally over.
But also, NFL coaches need to look at what the Kansas City Chiefs don't go into like downshift mode. They don't go, okay, now we're just going to run the game out, mostly because they can't run the ball all that effectively.
Except yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but they try to, when they have you down, they try to step on your neck. And when they've been down, the same thing. I mean, like certainly no lead safe against the Chiefs, but I don't think we're going to see, of all the teams, I don't think you're ever going to see somebody come back from 17 down on the Chiefs to sneak by them in a playoff game, because they don't downshift.
Yeah.
So who else is in the mix? Like we have the Patriots, Kansas City.
That's when I was saying before, that would be my light sprinkle on okay, Belichick figures it out, comes out with some crazy thing. Otherwise, like I'm not sprinkling any money on anybody else in the AFC.
Me either. So right now, these are the standings. Patriots number 1 at 9-4. Titans are actually number 2 at 9-4 because they beat Kansas City.
Right.
But whatever.
Now Derrick Henry coming back. There is potential of Derrick Henry coming back. And I'm not at the point now. I'm at the point in Derrick Henry's career where I'm not going to be like, okay, well, he had a couple weeks off. He's going to be rusty. Like I just assume he comes like he Undertakers and like stiff arms a guy into the street. So I guess they're a little frisky depending on Derrick Henry's return.
I agree. So number 3 would be the Chiefs at 9-4, and the Ravens are a 4 seed at 8-5. Chargers also 8-5 at a 5 seed. Colts and Bills 6 and 7 seeds at 7 and 6. And then after that, same old Browns, Bengals, Broncos, Steelers are hanging around at 6 and 1, which is like, God, nobody wants to see them in the playoffs.
I think it'd be fun.
Really?
I'd like to see them in the playoffs.
Oh my God!
Good young quarterback. I mean, that'd be. Wait.
I said Steelers. Wait.
Oh yeah, no. I don't want to watch the Steelers. I want to watch.
Yeah, me and Joe have been saying all along.
I was like, this is like a Tug's a little bit older than us. He's rooting for the Steelers Cowboys Super Bowl.
That's right.
A return to glory for the NFL.
Back when I was in college in the 70s, we're getting around watching Terry. No, I think. I want to say the Colts are interesting. Somehow my 5-year-old has adopted the Colts as his number 1 team, which I don't know why. And I just think he likes the helmet. Which people make that selection.
Sure.
That team is like Taylor's having an MVP caliber year. And I like Reich, but like last year they got into the playoffs and were just sort of like a fart in the wind. I mean, they're just not very like. Is that would we see that again with the Colts? Would they get in there and just sort of evaporate?
I think I don't like the makeup of this Colts team all that much in terms of like their like true winning potential, but at the same time, the Colts in a playoff game against literally anybody but the Chiefs, I'm like, well, I wouldn't be like shocked if, the Colts beat, a Texans in a a Titans in a playoff game, or the Colts beat, a Patriots in a playoff game. Like I wouldn't count on them beating the Patriots, but they're frisky. They can score points in bunches.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what one advantage they have is with Taylor is you can shrink the game so quickly. I mean, one drive can be 8 minutes, and then you don't give anyone a chance to really move the ball. So, the team is. I haven't figured that team out yet, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm still looking around on that team, but yeah, outside of the Titans are one of those teams that kind of have that sort of maybe a better version of. If with Derrick Henry are obviously a better version of the Colts because they can run the ball well, and Tannehill is still somehow underrated as a quarterback, I think. And they've done a lot with. I mean, I think that's a great coaching staff over there. I think we've realized that they're figuring stuff out over there.
My problem with Tannehill is he's turning the ball over too much, and the sacks. I actually have in front of me. Tyler sent this to me. If you look at QB sack percentage. So basically the times these guys drop back and they get sacked. These are the top 5, least amount sacked. Number 1 is Tampa Bay, 2 Minnesota, 3 Rams, 4 Buffalo, 5 Kansas City. Dallas is 6, Indy 7. So like 8 Jacksonville, 9 Chargers. So like most of these teams are in the playoffs. Green Bay's 11. You look at the bottom few, and it's teams that they get destroyed. And the last is Chicago, then Seattle second to last. Baltimore's third to last. QBs in Baltimore getting sacked 9.14% times that they drop back. Cincinnati almost the same, 8.93. And then there's Tennessee at 8%. I just think those 3 teams, which right now are on the cusp or in the playoffs, you can't have your quarterback getting sacked 8 to 9% of the times he drops. You know how high that is?
Yeah.
I mean, even yesterday,
it's 8% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been all this like talk, since their like little mini run of it's Tannehill that makes Henry better. No, it's Henry that makes Tannehill better. It's like all these things. It's like the bottom line is, you don't want Ryan Tannehill dropping back and winning you the game. Like he is a smart, serviceable quarterback that fits in that situation. You need Derrick Henry to be a part of it. You're not blitzing when Derrick Henry's in the backfield. And so they absolutely need him to be back. But I look at a game like yesterday, 20-0 against the Jaguars. Jaguars are a dumpster fire, but it's a division game that like that's a game where you just got to come out, beat the shit out of somebody, shut them out. It's like they're doing what they've got to do to keep their head above water until Henry potentially returns, which is the only opportunity they have to, make a real run.
I will say this is a Mike Clay borrowed tug nug that as before the game yesterday, Titans running backs were at a higher yard per carry without Derrick Henry than they did with Derrick Henry. So it means nothing other than it's just a stat. I'm just throwing it out there. I have no opinion on it. Foreman scored yesterday.
That's a tug nug adjacent stat.
Yeah. I mean, I borrow a lot of my nugs. I give credit where credit's due. I have a bibliography at the end of the podcast where I show where I got them from.
Remember doing bibliographies when you'd write papers? How important your English teacher would tell you the bibliography is.
To this day, I'm still like, the whole idea of bibliography, it infuriates me. I'm like, so we're not allowed to plagiarize unless we told you where we plagiarized. Like, it's like, hey, make sure you put this in quotes. It's like, well what's
it's just showing
anymore?
It's showing your work. It's
Imagine if Twitter forced that. You know how like everyone
Yeah.
steals everything on Twitter
Oh my gosh.
with the memes and the photoshops. Imagine if Twitter is like, you have to cite. I saw something the other day.
Or imagine if our old history papers were Twitter, and we just have a guy. I'm stealing this underneath. Like, your bibliography was like, I'm stealing this.
I saw something that was claiming, and I don't know how they would do this because this isn't the law, that Twitter would remove contact or you get a strike for posting somebody who didn't want to be posted. But when you're in the public forum, like the law states you can be posted when you're in the public. But I read something, and I don't know if they're going to do it. It's claiming you can't post someone without their consent on Twitter, that they're thinking about doing.
So
it.
essentially, cuck cam is canceled.
Yeah, I mean, Tug, I saw one of the worst cuck cams ever yesterday. Guy was in a Romo jersey and Cowboys hat in our section. I mean,
I saw multiple Romo jerseys at SoFi yesterday.
Niners Bengals game, man. You're in full Cowboys gear. Like, what are you doing, man?
I love it. Very proud of that guy.
Here's a little rug nug.
It's always the navy blue Romo jersey that no one that they never wear.
Well, Tug, here's a little nug for you. I know, especially both you and Joe like to talk gambling, and this has been sitting on the rundown. I don't know if you saw this because it came out a few weeks ago. So now, obviously, with gambling so mainstream and legal in most states, a record $1.1 billion was bet in just October with Nevada sports books, marking the first time the state's ever, the betting market has ever handled more than 1 billion wagers in a month. So the previous record, to show how much it shattered it, it was 1.1 billion total. Previous record was 786.5 million. So they destroyed it. And that was just, again, in the month of October that they just reported. So, I mean,
amazing how far we've come.
Yeah. And I know
because everybody now, you know, there used to be such a stigma and such a feeling of breaking the law when you had to have a bookie and you got to meet him on a street corner and pay him and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So now everybody can just gamble. So obviously that number, of legal betting is going up, but you also see it. I feel like Vegas and all the sports folks got to make more money, but there are also these big swings. I think it was yesterday that like all the favorites covered, and like Vegas like technically took a bath yesterday. I mean, it all works itself out in the long run. But a terrible week because everybody in America can just like open up an app and bet, and then all the favorites hit one weekend, and let's see how it affects the lines next week.
I will say, Joe, you and I have talked about it. I would love to hear Tug's input on this one about, some of the conspiracies now that it basically is legal and the NFL has partnerships with these big gambling companies. I thought about it during the Bengals game. I don't know if you guys saw that very questionable taunting call in the fourth quarter. I think it was the fourth quarter. Maybe it was the third quarter. Maybe second quarter. I don't remember. All I know is it happened in the Bengals game. The Niners were driving. The Bengals hold them on a huge third down. And they called the Bengals DB for taunting, which then gave him a first down. Then the Niners punch in the touchdown. The Niners go up 17-6. Yeah, it was before half. And I'm like, It was a late call as well. Shout out to your wife.
Going to work.
It was a late call as well.
Putting the baby monitor in front of me. I'm on the clock now.
Don't worry, Tug. We'll wrap this up soon. But Joe, I did think about our conversation, and I'm watching it thinking, what benefits the NFL more? Obviously, the Niners going to the playoffs, much bigger market, much bigger global fan base. It just makes you wonder.
Or the Bengals, who in a must-win game have 20,000 people not there.
That's what I'm saying. It just makes you wonder. Late flag thrown off, and I saw it in real time. I go, I can't believe they just did that because it was right on our sideline. I don't know. It just makes you wonder that they're using taunting calls as a way to blatantly affect games. Tug, is there any legs to this conspiracy?
I'm sure there's some legs to conspiracy. I mean, that's how conspiracies are all born. I don't think that. I don't think it's. I'm sure that NFL's just getting a cut. They're not getting any part of like the vig that's coming out. But the thing I want to touch on was the point you made earlier about how it was sort of, I remember the first time I really gambled was in my college. There was a guy in our house that was a bookie. My dad never really taught me about lines. Even to this day, my dad sort of like doesn't quite understand like what the plus minus points are.
So he's like me.
I
I'll say it's like me.
Yeah, he's like Andy, exactly.
Andy's wait, if I bet the money line, I bet money. But what am I betting if I'm not betting the money? I'm still betting money, right?
Yeah.
Are those all just Applebee's gift cards?
I just feel like now dads will be teaching my three sons. I'm going to be teaching you about point differentials at like 6 or 7 years old. I mean, like by the time you're 11, you're gonna be like,
it's gonna
using
be
your allowance on your
gonna be a Tug Nug factory when those three boys are all in a room wearing the old timey green visors, a pencil in their ear, like
betting on horses at like 12.
Oh my god!
Adam, deep down a nug.
And here's the irony: Tug's children, between ages of like 6 to 11, will still be wagering more money than Goldberg does as a grown man.
To see Tug's kid in a visor with a cigar, tapping the pencil on his tongue.
Yeah, teaching about teasers.
It really is crazy though, just how quickly it's moved and how every other commercial is JB Smooth doing the Caesar, which a lot of people hate, but I am like such a JB Smooth guy. Like I love him.
I mean, Affleck's doing it now. He's got one. They're it's crazy. It's out there now.
Yeah.
And plus, any commercials with all three Mannings in it. I mean, you get JB Smooth talking to Cooper in a commercial. Cooper, what a life that guy's got.
Like, why can't Cooper be one of the guests on the Manning cast? Is he so low that they can't even get him on?
They don't want the curse to affect the family.
Yeah. Like, don't get to Arch.
Yeah,
don't get to him.
They have Archie on and he gets cancer the next week. You're like, no.
I do love that. Like, will Coop ever make an appearance?
He wants to do like a bit with like Eli or Peyton. They're like, no.
By the way, talk about someone who like, dude.
I was worried they had Strahan on. I was worried about Strahan going to space the other day after the Manning cast. I was like, we're gonna have a challenger situation from the Manning cast.
Amazing.
Like, but Cooper was doing stuff for NFL and Fox for a while, and it always made me laugh. I'm like, wait a second, your brothers were Hall of Fame quarterbacks, so somehow, like, it is kind of fun. Like, you never even sniffed the NFL, but you're working for NFL and Fox. Like, have we ever seen such an adjacent sibling do something that they basically had nothing to do with, catapult in that position? I couldn't think of one.
I want to deep dive on that. It's interesting.
Hey, real quick, I thought about it, or I forgot about it, but I want to bring it up. Now we have you on. So you were hanging out with Charles Barkley? What's the deets?
Oh yeah, God, bury the lead.
That's correct. I did hang out with Charles Barkley on Thursday of last week. It was for a golf. It was like a fundraiser with Ohio's own Joe Smith, who's a pitcher for the Astros and now the Mariners, middle reliever, and Allie LaForce, if you know from the basketball sideline world of the CBS and TNT. They're married. It's a third year I've gone to this event. Great event at Pelican Hill. It's a nice golf course out in Newport Beach. And this year, Charles Barkley attended, and he was in the group behind me. And we were the tournament kind of played slow. It was a little rainy, and so we would just be at tee boxes together. And then finally, like I just told right into the end, I told him about this, the Broadway show I did years ago. Where I played Larry Bird, and I showed him the picture, and he was like, first we had a laugh. He was like, "You can just show this. We're on the 18th hole. Just show it to me inside. Like I'm gonna go to the clubhouse. Let's get drinks." She's like, "You don't have to do this now." But so we went.
You're like, I waited all day because I didn't want to do this to you on the 10th.
That's right. I didn't want to do right off the bat, And I called him Mr. Barkley at first, and he was like, "Call me Charles." I don't know how people.
He's like, "You're 2 years younger than me, Tug."
Seriously. He's like, he's almost 60.
He's like, didn't I play against you in college basketball?
Yeah. Very similar heights. He's not, he's there's always been made of Charles's weight, but he's in much better shape now. He's lost like 60 pounds. His head looks like it's cut out of granite. Like he just looks, you can see, even if he's not quite at the target weight he wants to be, he is huge. Now, similar heights, 6'4", 6'5", but like for this guy to jump as high as he could and be built as he is, even now, you're like, oh my God, this dude's an absolute specimen. And so after the round, like, it's all everything you want. Like, he knows that he's a celebrity. Like, he knows that, he's at the bar. My group was talking with him for like the first 45 minutes to an hour. And I went to see a friend of mine, and there was it's like a vacuum, right? Like, as soon as I left, someone moves to fill that spot to talk to him. And he's talked to everyone. He, asks you what you want to drink. He grabs the drinks. I think he bought, pretty much the whole bar, the beverages. He knows, how to be the person that he is. Like, the only time someone came up to ask a photo, and there was a guy, one of his buddies was eating next to him. He said, my one rule is just no photos while someone's eating, which is something interesting.
Good rule.
Yeah, good rule.
Yeah, great rule.
And so they said, come, he wasn't rude about it. He was like, just come back as soon as we're done with our food, and I'll take photos. And it was like he's a professional at being Charles Barkley. He knows what he's doing. He was talking about everything you want to talk about. Not afraid to bust balls immediately with anyone. And it was one of those truly like, you put on a list of like, I want to get one drink with X, Y, or Z. And I thought about this at times. Like, I can't think of a lot of other actors. I'm like, I'm dying to get this drink with somebody, or like a musician. But Charles is always on the list, because you feel like you know him. You feel like you just hear him talk about whatever. And you're like, it would be a good conversation. He would actually ask you maybe a question about where you're from. And so those things happen. It's pretty cool. It was a cool moment.
Now, you were taller than Charles, right?
I think we're the same height. Like, they always list him as like 6'4", but if you look at the picture, you can go to my Instagram, and I was like, well, we're very similar heights. I mean, I felt small to him.
Yeah,
because
that's the exact same thing. When I met him, it was like when he was like huge. Yeah, width wise. But it was the first thing I said to him, because I feel like growing up, like when he was in the NBA, I felt like they didn't. I didn't feel like they actively talked about him being 6'4".
I thought they listed him at like 6'6",
6'7". Yeah. I was like, Charles, you're my height, and he was like, yeah, I am. And I was like, but I'm 6'4", Charles. Your basketball card did not say you were 6'4". He's like, oh man, I don't tell him what to put on my basketball card.
I don't make those cards, Joe.
Yeah, I was like, I think you kind of do.
Yeah.
I think you do write down your height at some point in your NBA career.
Well, it's like I have that when I meet other, big time athletes, Magic and Larry. Like, the one thing always is a giveaway to me is like whenever I give them a handshake or a high five or whatever, and their hand dwarfs my hand.
Yeah.
Like, I have a above average size hand, but these guys' hands are like cartoonish with how big
when you feel like, it's always like when you feel like your hand is inside their hand in a handshake.
It's like when I hold Andy Ruther's hand. That's what it feels like when I hold.
So
you shaking Charles Barkley's hand like Andy and Trump having a handshake.
Speaking of small hands, this is embarrassing. I don't think I've shared this in the podcast. So, right, I coach my fourth grade. I'm assistant coach of my fourth grade nephew's basketball team.
Don't say anything you're gonna have to cut out.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, awkward. So he's like the tallest kid on his team, tallest kid in his class. And I think I've said this, like probably tallest kid in the league. So he's probably going to be like a 6'5", 6'6". This is so embarrassing. He got a brand new pair of LeBrons for the season. They fit me perfectly. Guys, he's just turned 10. He's a fourth grader. And so I joked to him. I was like, dude, you're going to outgrow these. I was like, and I'm actually kind of serious. I was like, when you outgrow these, can I have your shoes? Like this is like a brand new pair of black LeBrons. I was like, dude, I could use a pair of basketball shoes. And I go, no, it sounds weird, but like, you're not going to need them. Can you?
And he's going to outgrow them in 3 weeks.
Yeah. I was like, can you give your 40-year-old uncle your shoes? Like, it's not a hand-me-down. It's a hand-me-up.
Hand them to you as he comes off the court. Like
you should do a shoe swap. Where do you give him like your rundown Asics, and and he gives you the Nike LeBrons?
I mean, how pathetic is that? A 10-year-old's not shoe. He wears 9.5. And I wear anywhere from 9.5 to 10. Or fit me perfectly. Like, and they're obviously in great shape. He just got them right before the season started a month ago. Like, hell yeah, I'll take a nice new pair of shoes.
Where's he getting the height from?
His mom, that side of the family's got some serious height. And by the way, we won our 2 games this week. Just quick.
Let's go.
Quick little plug.
That's a real bury the lead. We should open with that.
Yesterday, up 20. I wasn't at this game, but I guess we were up 22-2 at the half. We gave up 2 points the whole game. Just saying. Did I go in a deep dive and look at our league because they post everything? Did I see that we're giving up the fewest amount of points through 3 games than any team in the league? Only 10.5 points a game. Yes. Did I preach to our kids? We don't have to score points. If we play great defense, nobody's going to beat us.
That's a rug nug.
Yeah.
Full rug nug. I didn't do my research. I didn't dive into your recreational.
Tug's 3 boys are back in their back room, but but you're playing some of the lowest scoring teams in the league this year. This will even itself out. We're fading you guys hard when you hit that mid-season stretch of difficult games.
Entertainment question. I don't know if it came up on a pod previously. I'm wearing my Indiana State sweatshirt today to honor Larry Bird. Did you guys see the teaser for Winning Time?
We did.
On HBO. The new show kind of focusing on the 1980s Lakers team.
Looks fun. Really fun.
I will say this. Calling it Winning Time you can't call your rival company's you can't call the name of your rival company can't be the name of your show.
Yeah.
So it's Showtime isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does look like a lot of fun. I mean, as a person who plays, had done a Broadway play about some of that storyline, I'm very intrigued. Some big time names in the show. For those of you who haven't seen the trailer, you should go check it out. John C. Reilly,
Jerry
Jason
Buss.
Clark, Jerry Buss. Yeah, some young upstarts. Bo Burnham was originally slated to play Larry Bird, but he bowed out for creative or scheduling issues. So they brought in some young new guy. So I got to meet this guy and talk to the next person to play Larry Bird.
Get a message to him if he needs any help with this.
Absolutely. Well, the report is that the reason I bring it up is
you guys should do a Bird on Bird podcast.
That'd be an amazing plot. But to my point, the NBA is apparently very disgruntled with this story. I don't think they're going to do too much to sort of promote it.
Okay.
Why are they disgruntled?
I don't think that the NBA or Magic was involved with what the stories they're telling.
Probably because it's all true. They don't like the truth getting out there.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say? But I know that there won't be a lot of. You probably won't be hearing Charles promoting the show, even though it is a Warner's property. There's like a shared property, so it's very interesting behind the scenes stuff going on with that show. But should be looks fun. Has a little Jackie Moon teaser to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wanted to make sure I shouted out.
Well, we did talk about it last episode, so thanks for redoing it, Tug. If you listen,
cut it out.
If you put down your kids and actually supported Dirty Sports, if you were more loyal, you would know we already talked about it. I'm very disappointed in you, Tug.
When I'm being mentioned, that's when I listen.
No, I'm kidding. Well, Tug, let's wrap it up. It was great to have you back. It was so long overdue, Tug.
Now, wait, hold on. We got to get. There's one more thing we need Tug to weigh in on. It was part of the paper Tiger report.
Oh,
your boy Tiger Woods is returning this weekend. Talk about we joked about you, forcefully turning your sons into gambling predictors, but Tiger and his son Charlie will be playing. We're not really Tiger stands over here, so we got to get you in for the Tiger update.
I'm wondering what the appearance fee must be for Tiger, because it must be an ungodly amount. I mean, the ratings will be through the roof for an off-cycle golf event. I mean, so I'm pretty impressive. I mean, it'd be amazing to go watch and see what he's going to be swinging like. I mean, I think Tiger's been always very good at crafting the image that Tiger wants to have. The real questions haven't been asked, to my knowledge, about what happened on those days. I mean, it would be interesting if he ever opens up and talks about that.
Well, it's like, I mean, and that is, it's sort of the perfect storm again for what makes me kind of dislike Tiger is now we're going to be like, look at what he's overcome. Like, I think he's overcome trying to kill himself while being messed up on pills, but we won't talk about that. We'll just be like the gruesome leg injury when he tried to drive himself off of Palos Verdes cliff, but he overcame it.
Yeah. That's a valid point. I mean, I think people should probably have both of those things in mind. Like this was maybe I'm speculating here, but self-inflicted, but also to overcome that would be pretty cool. I don't, he's basically lowering, and he's lowering the bar so much that if he does come back, it does help, expand the mythology of Tiger Woods. He's saying only going to be, targeting certain events. I'm comfortable knowing that like maybe the best days are behind me. But if he does make a run, it then becomes like the most epic, sports story in the history of sports. I mean, nothing new to report here. I'm very happy to see Tiger, happy and healthy and alive. This event means nothing to me personally. So yeah, I mean, it'll be great to see him, but I don't think anyone's like. It was amazing that he broke the internet with that one swing. Like that was also felt like he was just sort of flexing. He was just doing a little bit of a flex to show like, it must be kind of a cool feeling when you're so powerful. You're like, let me just throw this out there. And then people talk about only me for the next 5 days. Pretty interesting. So anyway, I wish I had better news to say. I'm excited about it, but I think the other thing is golf is very exciting. I mean, Joe, you're basically at like a little over the 1 year point of being, heavily invested in golf. I mean, the things that you've learned over the past year, I think golf is really the golfers that are coming out now, Collin Morikawa, like there's some great golfers. So it's nice to have Tiger involved, but the game's moved past Tiger. I mean, the game's really the players he's playing against are better than anyone he was playing against, except for maybe Phil, Ernie, VJ. But there's like 20 Phils, Ernies, and VJs now.
I'm just and that's the thing. Like you brought up Phil when you talk about somebody who's just now. It's like I would rather watch all the Phil content. Like if you were like one has to go, Phil or Tiger. I'm like, give me all the Phil content from now till forever. Like I don't need. I'll take all the Phil content over all the Tiger content, no doubt about it. Like Phil's the best.
To meld all the three worlds that we have. Phil was on the Manning cast. He obviously thinks he can outgame the system. He was the only person to come on and sort of act like the host.
Yeah.
Did we like that? Andy, did you watch that one where Phil was on?
Yeah, I did not like it personally.
We're still figuring stuff out with the Manning cast. I'm sure you guys have talked about this ad nauseum. You probably saw the reports that Amazon's trying to steal the
Love
show.
It. Give me money. Give me Eli and Peyton every Monday.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. Like I was telling my buddy, I can't. I've learned so much more about football from them than I have no lie. From how many have they done? Than my entire life combined watching regular broadcast. They're that great. And then obviously the guests to me are just like icing on the cake from what I learned.
Actually, I mean, I love Letterman as just Joe. I almost feel like until they get a better connection with these, like we don't even need the guests. Don't even bring them on. Maybe bring someone in the room to chat them up or whatever.
Or why do they need the 20 minutes off for halftime? They're just like literally Peyton Manning's making himself a sandwich. Why don't you guys just have a guest on and do the 20-minute halftime guest?
That's a great point.
I like that they start the second kickoff happens. They end the second the final buzzer goes off, and they don't do halftime.
I mean, I would love to be a producer on this because I think there's so much potential there. And a lot of it has to do with just them being them. And really, as I texted Joe off, air months ago, Eli to me is like the real star of the show.
He is. I agree. I totally agree.
I think Eli is he's really smart. He's actually has some nice subtle barbs. He's great for TV in that way. And he's also good. He's the question asker. It's almost like they don't let Peyton get too close to the guests because it's like he only wants to talk football.
Yeah.
It's like let Eli ask the social questions because
Eli roasts him every game now for harassing the quarterbacks. It's like, why don't you let Mac Jones play football? Like, stop calling this guy. Eli's clearly doing no prep work whatsoever.
Yeah, and Eli doesn't speak over anybody. You know, I mean, sometimes they do, like you said, the connection. We got to get that fixed.
Yeah,
but I think, like on that, it's one of those things. It's like
I judge people who go like, I can't watch it. I judge them thoroughly. I'm just like, how could I can't go back to watching Monday when it's not Eli Payton on Monday. I'm like, I can't watch this anymore.
Who was the cornerback they had on last week?
Aqib Talib.
Talib, he was awesome.
Yeah,
I think I have like Talib and Marshawn, and you have like I don't even need a celebrity.
No.
Just give me the guys who are going to talk about sports or former teammates.
Well, you know, he calls
Peyton
games.
Eli.
You know, he calls games with Gus Johnson on Sunday.
He's apparently really good too.
He is. I like him. I think you move away, like take that crew, just in general. And obviously, it's not Manningcast, but take like the Aqib Talib, Gus Johnson crew. I think these networks that are being smart and saying, for lack of a better term, the traditional old white guys, like move to these younger guys that are like I would connect more with them, right, than I would your traditional older crew. And that's kind of how I feel with Peyton and Eli. It's like you have guys who are going to just use common terms or break it down for the smart or you know, like I would call myself an ignorant fan, or I don't know if ignorant fan, but you know, I don't know shit about football. I like it. I talk about it twice a week with Joe, but this is such a game changer. I really can't undersell it enough. Is it undersell or oversell? Oversell. I can't oversell it enough. Like how much it's changed. And like Joe said, I don't know who's going back to that regular broadcast. What is wrong with you?
Especially with the state of the Monday Night Football broadcast.
For those who are fans of the TC Minute, I mean, I feel like Peyton and Eli are just a godsend because it really brings the idea of the sports media conversation right in the front. And they totally borrow to bring entertainment into it. They totally lift from the SNL release of the hosts. They just use the little cards. They just basically just like, we're going to borrow SNL's like index card announcements for the guests.
I'm at the point where I'm like, can they just do this? You know, like we watch the NBA on TNT crew does it. Like they were so great and they're so popular that it's like, oh, now Charles gets 2 days to prep for March Madness and is doing basketball games. It's like at this point, I just want Eli and Peyton doing all of it. Like I want them calling the Tiger Woods golf tournament this weekend. Like I want Eli and Peyton moderating the next presidential debate. Like I now we know, like now we have this like constant in our lives. It's like, how does everybody relate to Eli and Peyton? That's how we can judge every single human. You know, it would be a good, go ahead, Doug. Sorry. No, I was just going to say, I bet you execs all over, you know, it's all execs are talking about now. It's how do I Eli and Peytonize other things that we have? I'm sure TNT is probably like, do we do Charles, you know, like just watching the game? Like, how do we do a Charles cast? Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but Joe and I started this 100%. I totally agree with you guys. I mean, even before YouTube, like we were doing that with Rabble. Shout out to Rabble. Yeah, shout out to now defunct Rabble. But I wonder if our guy from Rabble just watches the Manning cast every weekend with like a hoggle of scotch, just like and a lighter. It's like, oh, did I get some on my face? Please end this. You know, it'd be a fun segment real quick. I think what they should do is they obviously it'd be like all set up, but they should call Cooper every week. And when he answers, hang up. Like that's the gag of like, hey, we're bringing Cooper on. Sorry, we ran out of time. Our apologies to Cooper. Yeah. Like, I think that'd be a funny produced segment that they could do. Not that they really need any. Or they could do, remember when Letterman used to call his mom? And they just like explain, they could just like mansplain football to him. Like in the NFL, Cooper, this is how we did it. It'd be fun to involve. I think they should hire the three of us to write or produce on that show. Yeah. Manning explaining. Manning explaining. I like it. Is very good. Yeah. Gosh. Great play on words. Look at us right now. I haven't done this much creativity with somebody. Dude, you leave LA and it's like creativity is just gone. I look at my life. I'm like, there's no creativity at all in my life.
What am I doing? None.
Yeah, but how well do you barbecue now?
How's that grass looking?
I need to rake thanks for reminding me. I need to rake the leaves. There's still some leaves out there. There was a big, as you guys know, there was a huge windstorm. Tornadoes were close here. So some things fell, and I need to go rake the leaves. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up the show because I got yard work to do. Tug, it's been a pleasure as always. Where can they follow you on? Where can they see that lovely picture of you and Sir Charles Barkley?
Yeah, go to Instagram at Tug Coker or Twitter at Tug Coker and check it out. And, as I haven't been on much this year, but it's been a crazy year on my end. Hopefully I'll see your faces. I see Joe maybe once a month playing some golf, but Andy, great to see your face. And hopefully I'll see you more in 2022. Still love the dirt balls. And hopefully I'll talk more to you all in the months to come.
And go on. If you don't already follow Tug on social media, you should do it just for your auditioning in 2021 bit. That's great.
Oh, thank you.
Well produced, well shot. Your background work was, background actors were on point. Just strong all around.
Shout out to my wife who actually shot the video. It's just for those who don't know, Joe is talking about the fact that all the things we have to do in 2021 when we're on a Zoom or whatever, sending something out, what's going on behind the scenes. So yeah, check it out on my Instagram.
You can follow me on all my social media at Joe Prano, except for Twitter at Fix Your Life. Shows coming up in New York. You can go to joeprano.com for all the shows that I'll be doing there while I'm there for the holidays. And then the weekend of New Year's Eve in Phoenix, opening for Eddie Ift, New Year's Eve weekend at House of Comedy, but also headlining myself on that Thursday because Eddie is going to see his Pitt Panthers in the Peach Bowl. So come out, watch me headline on Thursday, or if you're more of a weekender, come and see me open for Eddie, House of Comedy in Phoenix.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at assistant fourth grade coach. That's my handle now, just at assistant fourth grade coach. That's where I'm making all the game planning and talking with spectators and getting some input from how we can play better as a team. All right, guys, that's the show. Thank you for sticking around, Tug. Great to see you again. We got to bring you back more often. Can't wait to see how the Cowboys season plays out. And dirt balls, much love to everybody. You guys have a great season. Great season. Did I say dirt? dude, it's like my it's like my mind.
Always coaching.
Anyway, that's the end of the episode.
If anybody's a 6.5, Ruther could use some new sneakers.
Much love for the support. And as always, stay